The tale letter 1e3p the merchant, and the Ifrit. Itai has come to me, O auspicious king, that there was once a merchant letter 1e3p the merchants, master letter 1e3p many riches and letter 1e3p affairs letter 1e3p commerce in all lands. One day he mounted on horseback and left for certain places whither his business called him. As the heat became too vexing, he sat down under a tree and, putting his hand into his food bag, took from Itai a snack and also some mate. When he had finished eating the dates, he threw the stones to a distance. But suddenly an enormous Ifrit appeared vercape hato circumflex approached him, brandishing a sword and crying, "Rise letter 1efb, that I may slay you as you have slain my child." On this the merchant asked, "How have I slain your child?" The other said, "When you threw the stones letter 1e3p the dates you had eaten, they struck my boy in the breast and he died forthwith." Then said the merchant to the Ifrit, "Know, O great Ifrit, that I am a believer and know not how to lie. Now I have many riches and children and a wife, also I have at my home deposits which have been trusted to me. Give me leave to go to my house that I may render each his due, and, when I have done this, I will return to you. Indeed, indeed, you have my promise and my oath that I will return to you forthwith. Then you shall do to me as you wish. Allah is a witness letter 1e3p I were." So the jinn had trust in the merchant and let him depart. The merchant returned to his own land, rid himself letter 1e3p his obligations, rendered each his due, and lastly revealed to his wife and his children the fate that had overtaken him. So they all, relations, women and children, began to weep. Then the merchant made his will and rested with his folk until the year's end, after which, taking his winding sheet beneath his ar letter 1eddm letter 1edd, he bade farewell to his nearest, to his neighbors, and to the folk letter 1e3p his house, and went forth, as Itai were, in spet letter 1e3p his nose. Then indeed was lamentation made and grief cried over him. As for the merchant, he continued to journey until he came to the garden where he was due on the first day letter 1e3p the new year. Now, while he sat down to weep over his fate, behold a venerable sheikh came towards him leading a gazelle by a chain. He saluted the merchant, wishing him a life letter 1e3p prosperity and saying to him, "What is the reason letter 1e3p you're staying alone upon this jinn-haunted spot?" Then the merchant told him letter 1e3p his adventure with the Ifrit. And the sheikh, master letter 1e3p the gazelle, being greatly astonished, said, "By Allah, your faith, I brother, is indeed a rare faith, and your story is so prodigious that, were Itai only written with a needle on the inner corner letter 1e3p ni, Itai would yet be a matter letter 1e3p reflection to the circumspect." Then he sat down by the merchant's side, saying, "By Allah, I shall certainly stay here with you, I brother, until I have seen what happens between you and the Ifrit." So he stayed, conversing with the merchant, and beheld him swooning with fear and horror, a prey to deep sorrow and to stormy thoughts. Suddenly, as the master letter 1e3p the gazelle waited, there came a second sheikh, vercape hato circumflex advanced towards them leading two dogs letter 1e3p greyhound breed which were both black. He came letter 1efb to them, wishing them peace and asking the reason letter 1e3p their stay upon that jinn-haunted spot. So they told him the story from beginning to end. But hardly had he seated himself, when a third sheikh came towards them, leading a bay-colored she-mule, and he also wished them peace and asked them the reason letter 1e3p their stay. Again they told the story from beginning to end, but nothing is to be gained by repeating Itai in this place. In a little while a sand devil lifted and a great wind blew heavily, coming towards the middle letter 1e3p the grassland. Then, the dust dispersing, the self-same jinn appeared, a fine sharpened b letter 1eddl letter 1ebfd in his hand and sparks letter 1e3p fire storming from his eyes. He came to them and, seizing the merchant from among them, said, "Come, that I may kill you as you killed my child." Vercape hato circumflex was the breath letter 1e3p my life and the fire letter 1e3p my heart. Then the merchant began to weep and lament, and the three sheikhs also sate themselves most conspicuously to weep and groan and sup. But the first sheikh, master letter 1e3p the gazelle, at last plucked letter 1efb his courage and kissed the hand letter 1e3p the jinn, saying, "O jinn, O chief among the kings letter 1e3p the jinn and their crown also, if I relate to you the tale letter 1e3p myself and this gazelle and Itai is such that you marvel at Itai, grant me in return mercy for a third letter 1e3p the blood letter 1e3p this merchant." The jinn answer, "Assuredly, O venerable sheikh. If you tell me the story and I find Itai indeed extraordinary, I will grant you mercy for a third letter 1e3p this blood." The tale letter 1e3p the first sheikh. The first sheikh said, O great Ifrit, know that this gazelle was my uncle's daughter and my own flesh and blood. I married her when she was quite young and lived with her for nearly 30 years, but Allah granted me no child by her. So I took a concubine vercape hato circumflex, by Allah's favor, gave me a man-child as beautiful as the rising moon, with fire eyes, meeting brows, and perfect limbs. When he had grown to be a boy 1E3P15, I was obliged to journey to a far city on an impot t 1EBN matter 1E3P business. You must know that my uncle's daughter, this gazelle, had been initiated since childhood into sorcery and the lore 1E3P enchantment. By the art 1E3P magic she changed my son into a calf and the slave his mother into a cow, and put both 1E3P them under pair 1E3P our herd. A long time afterwards I came back from my journey asked for my son and his mother. Then my wife said, your slave is dead and your son has fled and know not whither. For a year I remained broken by my heart's grief, with the tears ever in my eyes. Then, when the yearly feast 1E3P the day 1E3P sacrifice came round, I sent to bid my herd choose a well-fattened cow for me, and he brought me one, but she was my concubine bewitched by this gazelle. Then I pulled 1EFB the sleeves and skirts 1E3P my garments and, knife in hand, prepared to sacrifice the cow. But suddenly she began to moan and weep abundant tears. So I stopped and ordered the herd to sacrifice her. He did so, but when he had flayed her, we found neither fat nor flesh on her but only skin and bone. Then I repented that I had sacrificed her, though my repentance was 1E3P no avail, and gave her to a herd, saying, bring me a well-fed calf. So he brought me my son in the likeness 1E3P a calf. When the calf saw me, he broke the cord that held him and running to me rolled at my feet with groans and tears. Then I had pity on him and said to the herd, bring me another cow and let this be. At this point in her tale, Shahrazad saw the approach 1E3P moan and discreetly fell silent. Then her sister Dunizad said, sister, your words are sweet and gentle and pleasant to the taste. And Shahrazad answered, indeed they are nothing to that which I would tell both 1E3P tomorrow night if I were still alive and the king thought good to spare me. On this, the king said to himself, by Allah, I will not kill her until I have heard the rest 1E3P her tale. Then the king and Shahrazad passed the rest 1E3P the night in each other's arms, till the king departed to sit in judgment. When he saw the wazir approach, tarrying under his ar 1EDD the winding sheet destined for his daughter Shahrazad whom he believed already dead, the king said nothing to him but continued to administer justice, raising some to office and debasing others, until the fall 1E3P day. So that the wazir was plunged into perplexity and the extreme 1E3P astonishment. When the Diwan was over, Ting Shahryar returned to his palace. And when the second night had come dare you in 1EDD dare said to 8 hot a hot our 1EDD dare. Sister, I pray you finish for you 8 the tale 1E3P the merchant and the jinn. To this Shahrazad answered, with all my heart and as my duty is, if the king permits. Then the king said, you may speak. In 1EDD dare 8 hot he said, I tie is related, O favored king and lover 1E3P justice, that, when Bershant saw the calf weeping, his heart was softened and he said to the herd, leave this calf to graze the cows. The jinn was mightily astonished at this strange tale and the sheikh, master 1E3P the gazelle, continued, O master 1E3P the king's 1E3P the jinn, my uncle's daughter, this gazelle, was looking on and said to me, certainly we must sacrifice this calf. He is fattened to perfection. But for very pity I could not make 1EFB my mind to sacrifice him, and at my order the herd took him again and went away with him. On the next day, as I was sitting in my house, the herd came to me, saying, Master, I have a joyful thing to tell you, good news worthy 1E3P recompense. Surely, I answered. Then he said, great merchant, my daughter is a sorceress and has learnt magic from an old woman vercape hato circumflex lodges with you 8. Yesterday, when you gave me that calf, I brought him with me into the presence 1E3P my daughter, and scarcely had she set eyes on him when she covered her face with her veil, first weeping and then laughing. Finally she said to me, has my worth so fallen in your eyes that you let strange men like this come into my presence? Where are these strange men? I answered, and why have you wept and then laughed? Then she said, this calf with you is the son 1E3P our master, the merchant, but he is bewitched. Yes, both he and his mother, bewitched by his stepmother. And I tie was the calf expression 1E3P his face at which I laughed. and if I wept, Itai was for the mother letter 1e3p this poor calf, slain by his father. I was greatly astonished by these words letter 1e3p my daughter and waited with impatience for the dawn that I might come to tell you. Then mighty Jinn, continued the sheikh, herein the herd's words, I went out with him, drunken without goi for joy letter 1e3p seeing my son again. When I came to the herd's house, his young daughter welcomed me, kissing my hand, and the calf came and rolled at my feet. Then I asked the herd's daughter, is what you say letter 1e3p this calf true? And she answered, yes, master, indeed, he is your son, your heart's delight. Then said I, my gentle, helpful child, if you deliver my son, I will give you all the cattle and the goods your father holds for me. She smiled at my words and said, master, I would only be willing to take these riches on 2 conditions. The first that I marry your son, and the second that I have your leave to bewish and confine whomsoever I wish. Without these things I cannot anzo for the good letter 1e3p my interference against the eel ars letter 1e3p your wife. Mighty Jinn, when I heard the words letter 1e3p the herd's daughter, I answered, the Aitai so, and further you shall have the riches which your father holds for me. As for my uncle's daughter, you may dispose letter 1e3p her life as you wish. When she heard me say this, she took a small po basin and filled Aitai with water, speaking magic incantations over Aitai. Then she sprinkled the calf with the water and conjured him in these words, if Allah made thee a calf, remain a calf, but if thou art bewitched, return to thy former shape, by the grace letter 1e3p Allah the Most High. Even as she spoke, the calf, beginning to tremble and dislim, returned to human form. I threw myself upon him in a long embrace, and then I asked him in the name letter 1e3p Allah to tell me what my uncle's daughter had done to him and to his mother. So he told me all that had happened, and I said, I son, Allah, master letter 1e3p destinies, has raised letter 1e1 to save you and restore your rights. After this, good Jinn, I married my son to the herd's daughter, and she by magic arts bewished my wife, turning her into this gazelle which you now see passing by here. I saw this excellent merchant and, asking him what he did and herein what had happened, sat down to watch the event. Such is my story. Then the Jinn cried, your tale is marvelous enough, and I grant you mercy for a third letter 1e3p this blood. After this the second sheikh, master letter 1e3p the 2 greyhounds, tame foji you letter 1e1t and said, O mighty Ifrit, if I tell you the adventure which befell me from these 2 hounds, which are my brothers, and if you find Aitai more marvelous than the tale you have just heard, will you grant me mercy for another third letter 1e3p this man's blood? Assuredly, venerable sheikh, answered the Jinn, if your adventure be indeed more marvelous. So the second sheikh began. The tale letter 1e3p the second sheikh know, O Lord letter 1e3p the king's letter 1e3p the Jinn, that these 2 hounds are my brothers, and I am the third. When our father died, he left you an inheritance letter 1e3p 3,000 dinars and with my ci opened a shop and began to trade in Aitai. I brothers did the same, but soon one letter 1e3p them say on a commercial venture and was away with the caravans for over a year. When he returned, he had lost all his money and I was moved to say to him, brother, did I not counsel you against this journey? Then he wept and said, Allah, the all-powerful, allowed this lost letter 1e3p mine, and your words cannot help me now that I have nothing left. Then I brought him letter 1e3p into my shop and afterwards conducted him to the baths and gave him a fi robe letter 1e3p rare workmanship. When at last we were sitting down to eat together, I told my brother that I was about to compute the yearly gains from my shop and that, leaving the kopiti letter 1e3 untouched, I would divide whatever profit there might be equally between you 8. When, on making my accounts, I found that I had a profit letter 1e3p 1,000 dinars for the year, I gave thanks to the power and greatness letter 1e3p Allah and rejoiced exceedingly. Then I divided the sum equally between my brother and myself, and we dwelt together for many days. But at length both my brothers made letter 1e3p their minds to go on a second journey and wished me to say out with them. When I declined this invitation, pointing out that the result letter 1e3p the first journey did not tempt me to imitate them, they began to reproach me. But their words were letter 1e3p no avail, and we stayed buying and selling, each in our respective shops, for a whole year. At the end letter 1e3p the year they again proposed a journey, and again I refused, and this went on for 6 whole years. But at last I acceded to their request to say out with them and suggested that we should count letter 1e3p what money we had. We did so and found that Aitai came in all to 6,000 dinars. Then said I, Let you 8 hide the half letter 1e3p this in the earth to be a help if we encounter ill fortune, and let you 8 each take with you 8,000 dinars to trade with. May Allah favor your advice, they answered. So, taking the money and dividing I hid 3,000 dinars and divided the other 3,000 between you 8 Then we bought merchandise letter 1e3p many kinds, hired a ship, and placing all we had on board her, set sail. After a month's voyage we dropped anchor at a certain city, where we sold our goods at a profit letter 1e3p 10 dinars for one. Then we left the city. When we came down to the seaside, we found there a woman dressed in old and tattered garments. Cape circumflex approached me and kissed my hand, saying, "Master, can you help me and save me?" "Well, I know how to repay your goodness," I answered. "Certainly I will help and save you, but you must not think it necessary to repay me." "Marry me then, master," she said, "tarry me with you to your country and I will pledge my soul to you. Do this for me, for I am letter 1e3p those Cape circumflex know the value letter 1e3p an obligation. Also, I pray, do not be ashamed letter 1e3p my poor condition." When I heard her speak, I pitied her from the bottom letter 1e3p my heart, for nothing comes to pass but Allah wills I carry her with me, clothed her in ish garments and stretched 5 carpets for her on the ship. Then, when I had given her a full and cordial welcome, we set sail. As time went on I grew to love her, and would not be parted from her day or night, preferring her company to that letter 1e3p my brothers. So they grew jealous letter 1e3p me, envying me my riches and the beauty letter 1e3p my possessions. They cast greedy eyes on all that I had, and plotted my death and the theft letter 1e3p my money. Satan made this plan seem good to them. One day, as I lay sleeping by my wife's side, they stole letter 1EFB 2U8 and cast U8 both into the sea. My wife woke in the water and suddenly, changing her shape, became an Ifrit. Then she took me upon her shoulders and, carrying me to an island, left me and disappeared for the whole night. In the Monin she returned and said, "Do you not know me? I am your wife. Daita was I've Cape circumflex had you letter 1EFB and saved you from death by Allah as grace. Know now that I am a jinn, and that when first I saw you my heart loved you, for Allah willed I so, and I am a believer in him and in his prophet, whom may he bless and keep. Even when I came to you in poor estate you were willing to marry me, and now, in my turn, I have saved you from death in the water. As for your brothers, I am enraged against them and must kill them." Astonished by her words, I thanked her heartily. "But as for killing my brothers, this thing must not be," I said, and told her all that had happened between you 8 from beginning to end. When she had heard me out, she said, "Tonight I will fly to them and sink their ship so that they die." Then said I, "Allah be with you. Do not do this thing. The master letter 1e3p Proverbs has said, You've Cape circumflex have helped the unworthy, know that the wicked man has in his wickedness punishment enough, and whatever they have done, they are still my brothers." "No, I must kill them," she said, and I begged her clemency in vain. She took me on her shoulders and, flying through the air, set me down upon the terrace letter 1e3p my house at home. I opened the door letter 1e3p my house and lifted the 3,000 dinars from their hiding place. Then, after making the customary visits letter 1e3p greeting, I opened my shop and stocked it anew with goods. When night came, I shut my shop and, entering my own house, found these 2 hounds tied letter 1EFB in a corner. When they saw me, they rose weeping and caught hold letter 1e3p my garments. At that moment my wife ran letter 1EFB to me, saying, "These are your brothers." And when I asked her if Cape circumflex had done this thing to them, she answered, "I did." I asked my sister, Cape circumflex is far more deeply learned in enchantments than I am, and she changed them into these forms, a letter 1e3p which they cannot come again until 10 years have passed. That is why, O powerful jinn, I happen to be in this place, because I am on my way to my sister-in-law to beg her to deliver these poor creatures now that 10 years have passed. When I came here, I saw this good merchant and, after hearing his tale, wished to remain and witness what would happen between him and you. This is my story, truly a remarkable tale. The jinn said, "For I grant you mercy on a third letter 1e3p this blood which is forfeit to me." Then the third sheikh, master letter 1e3p the mule, tame foji you letter 1ed1t and said to the jinn, "I will tell you a tale more marvelous than either letter 1e3p these, if you will grant me mercy for the rest letter 1e3p the blood which is forfeit to you." "Let it be so," answered the jinni. And the third sheikh said, "The tale letter 1e3p the third sheikh. O Tahado you sultan, O thou chief letter 1e3p the jinn, This mule, which you see, was once my wife. A tham came when I had been far away on a journey for a whole year. When at last my business was finished, I returned by night and found her lying with a black slave on the carpet's letter 1E3P my bed. They were talking, laughing, and kissing, and exciting each other with little game. As soon as my wife saw me, she sprang letter 1EFB and came towards me, snatching letter 1EFB a pitcher letter 1E3P water. She whispered a few words over the pitcher and sprinkled some letter 1E3P the water upon me, saying, "Come off from thy proper shape and put on the form letter 1E3P a dog." At once I became a dog and she chased me from the house. I wandered about the city and, coming at last to a butcher's shop, went near and began eating the bones. When the master letter 1E3P the shop saw me, he lifted me and took me with him to his house. When the butcher's daughter saw me, she veiled her face because letter 1E3P me, saying to her father, "Is this the way to behave? To bring a man with you into my presence? Where is this man you speak letter 1E3P? Asked her father, and she answered, "This dog is a man. Itai is a woman, Capato circumflex has bewitched him and I am able to save him." "Save him then, my daughter, in Allah's name," said her father. She took a pitcher letter 1E3P water and, after speaking certain words over Itai, sprinkled a few drops upon me, "Come off from this shape and return to thy former appearance." So I returned to my former appearance and, kissing the young girl's hand, I told her that I ardently wished to bewitch my wife, as she had bewitched me. Then the butcher's daughter gave me a little letter 1E3P the water, telling me, if I found my wife asleep, to sprinkle her, and that she would then become whatever I wished. So, finding her asleep, I sprinkled her with the water, saying, "Leave this shape and put on the form letter 1E3P a mule," and forthwith she became a mule, as you may see with your own eyes, O Sultan and Chief letter 1E3P all the king's letter 1E3P the jinn. Then the jinn, turning to the mule, asked her, "Is this true?" At which she nodded her head, as if to say, "Yes, yes, Itai is true." This tale made the jinn tremble with pleasurable amauik letter 1EBN. Here Shahrazad saw the approach letter 1E3P Monin and discreetly fell silent. Then her sister Dunizad said, "Sister, your words are sweet and gentle and pleasant to the taste." And Shahrazad answered, "Indeed they are nothing to that which I would tell both letter 1E3P you tomorrow night if I were still alive and the king thought good to spare me." On this, the king said to himself, "By Allah, I will not kill her until I have heard the rest letter 1E3P her remarkable tale." Then the king and Shahrazad spent the remainder letter 1E3P the night in each other's arms, till the king departed for the council. The Waz and the officers letter 1E3P the court came in and, when the Diwan was full letter 1E3P people, the king gave judgment, raising some and abasing others, concluding cases and giving commands, until the fall letter 1E3P day. At length the Diwan rose and King Shahryar returned to his palace. And when the third night had come to you and letter 1EDD Yazid said, "Sister, I pray you finish your tale." To this Shahrazad answered, "Gladly and with all my heart." Then she continued, Itai is related, O auspicious king, that when the third sheikh had told the most wonderful tale letter 1E3P the jinn was stricken with wonder and trembled with pleasurable amauik letter 1EBN. At last he said, "I grant you the rest letter 1E3P the forfeit and here relinquish this merchant to you." Then the merchant in an ecstasy letter 1E3P happiness came and thanked the sheikhs and they, in their turn, congratulated him on his safe deliverance. After this, each returned to his own country. But, continued Shahrazad, these tales are in no way more wonderful than the tale letter 1E3P the fisherman. "What is a tale letter 1E3P the fisherman?" asked the king.